How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be talking about why Sweden is suddenly declaring war on immigration. We all know there's a lot of things going on in this world, and immigration is a big problem for everybody. So we're going to check this out and see what this is all about. It is by The Invisible Hand. So if you guys enjoy this content, check out their stuff. I will put all of their information down in the description box for you if you want to check that out. And let's do it. Thanks for watching.
The year is 2015, and Sweden has just made a groundbreaking decision. They have just opened their borders to approximately 163,000 refugees, primarily from Syria, Iraq, and Afghanistan. This marked the peak of a mass migration wave, with Sweden receiving more asylum seekers per capita than any other European country at the time. In fact, in just 10 years, starting from 2010, Sweden's percentage of foreign-born individuals has risen from 14.3 to 25.9% of the population.
Wow.
Migration is not new to Sweden. In fact, it's been happening a lot ever since World War II. But over the last 3 decades, this has gradually been rising, as Sweden has welcomed more and more migrants, and record levels recently have more than doubled some of the previous peaks. But in the last few
I would say tripled from around here.
years, public opinion on this subject has completely changed, and Swedes are taking a stronger stand against migration than ever before.
Sweden is struggling to accommodate 165,000 people. The country's generosity has left it struggling.
A once peaceful Nordic nation has become the gun murder capital of Europe.
Sverige har aldrig förr sett något liknande. Inget annat land i Europa ser något liknande.
Since 2023, Sweden has
Sweden has been battling this immigration thing for a very, very, very long time. I think people around here are just starting to feel the effects. I'm very naive to all of this stuff, and I'm trying my hardest to learn as much as I can because it's all crazy. It is all crazy, and not a lot of people know really what's going on. Quite sad, but thank you, Sweden.
started to completely shift its policy from integrating refugees to now actively looking to return them to their home country as soon as it's allowed. In 2021, only 25% of Swedes felt that integration of most immigrants in their country was either very or fairly successful, a figure which is far below the EU average. And in the 6 months since new laws were introduced, the Swedish Migration Agency has tripled the number of revoked permits, with over 6,000 individuals having their right to stay in Sweden taken away since January 2023. New amendments effective from December 1st, 2023 have also restricted family reunification for refugees and asylum seekers by raising the age limit and imposing strict financial criteria. These decisions have proved controversial both abroad and domestically, with
I have noticed every cop in every country mostly has like those vests on, and they look like just normal citizens. Ours do not. Like, they got guns and tasers and just all sorts of stuff. Like, that does not look like a police officer to me. It looks like a
Hit like and subscribe. Keep that part in.
So yeah, they look like crossing guards or something to me. I don't know.
many arguing that it puts people in danger and that their legal rights have been compromised. To many outsiders, this may seem strange. Sweden, like its Nordic neighbours, is often seen as some sort of liberal utopia, with a strong welfare state and a generally very tolerable view on migration. But recently this has turned sour, as failures to integrate have seen a massive spike in migrant-related gang violence across the country and in its major cities, giving rise to right-wing parties like the Sweden Democrats, whose major campaigning points were around reducing immigration. So this presents an interesting question. Immigration in Sweden has been gradually increasing for years. So why only now is it reaching a boiling point? Sweden is one of the richest countries in the world, with an average yearly salary of around $50,000. And when you ask anyone about Sweden, one of the first words that comes to mind is safety. It's been one of the safest countries in the world for most of its modern history, whether it's through its long-standing policy of neutrality, its low levels of crime, or even inventing the seatbelt. This has all contributed significantly to Sweden's reputation for public safety, allowing it to develop a stable society, and it's practically a way of life. But many think that the recent influx of asylum seekers from 2015 are threatening this aspect of Swedish life. This paper here looked at recent attitudes towards migration and found that in 2017, over half of those surveyed believed that terrorists posing as refugees had entered the country and committed violent and destructive acts. These views were also related to a general fear of the increase in crime due to migration. In the last 10 years, Sweden has experienced a notable increase in gang-related violence, with a significant rise in shootings and bombings. The number of fatal shootings has more than doubled since 2013, meaning Sweden has gone from having one of the lowest levels to now having the second highest rate of gun crime deaths in Europe,
Oh, wow.
behind only Albania.
I mean, they are pretty tied up to Bosnia, or however you say that. Wow.
This surge in violence has a clear link to organised crime, often involving individuals with immigrant backgrounds, particularly in urban areas like Stockholm, Gothenburg and Malmö. And according to the most recent study from the Swedish government, people born abroad are 2.5 times as likely to be registered as a crime suspect as people born in Sweden to two native-born parents. But what we should also note is that these stats can often be misleading, as migrants tend to be in socio-economic groups who would commit more crime anyway, such as young males. But even after adjusting for factors like age, gender, and living conditions, individuals with foreign backgrounds in Sweden remain more likely to be registered as crime suspect compared to those with native parents. Foreign-born individuals are 1.8 more times likely, and second-generation immigrants are 1.7 times more likely to be suspects.
Wow.
Much of this is to do with socio-economic factors like income, which in turn has a lot to do with Sweden's approach to integration. Previously, Sweden's approach to integrating migrants involved dispersing them across the country to avoid strain in major cities. And even though there would be a break-in period to learn the language, many migrants successfully integrated. But in 2015, the sudden and large
I mean, I don't mind it as long as you're not coming into harm and you're not disrespecting us, like, as in, don't just sneak into our country, go about it the right way, kind of thing. But yeah, it's becoming awful.
influx of asylum seekers put immense pressure on the country's integration system, which was not equipped to handle such numbers efficiently. The large numbers of arrivals created immediate logistical challenges, such as finding temporary accommodation and processing asylum requests. To many that have looked into this topic, it seems that the problem was not admitting migrants, but admitting so many in such a short period of time, which has caused some of the issues Sweden is now facing. Because of these challenges, many of these migrants settled in impoverished suburbs, struggled to integrate, and felt disconnected from society, leading to high levels of poverty and reliance on government welfare. Migrants in Sweden, particularly those from non-European countries, face significantly higher poverty rates compared to native Swedes.
And I guess apparently that's how it's been in Springfield, Ohio. People being in such bad poverty that they are stealing geese and ducks and dogs and cats and eating them already. I mean, they get food stamps as well on top of a bunch of other stuff. I don't get it.
In the 10-year period between 2013 and 2023, the at-risk of poverty rate for citizens born outside the EU ranged from 30 to 40%, whilst the rates for those born in the EU or in Sweden were much lower, at 15 to 20 and 11% respectively. Put simply, poverty increases crime, and quite often violent crime. This study, based on counties from the US, found that the 10% of people living in the poorest counties had almost a 6 times higher homicide rate than the 10% living in the least poor counties. A rise in crime linked to poverty has been a fear for many in Sweden, and they don't have to look far to see why. In 2022, Stockholm's gun murder rate was around 30 times higher than in London, despite having a smaller population.
Wow.
And the effects of poverty on crime can clearly be seen in a city like Malmö. Malmö is located just east of the Danish capital Copenhagen, and has accepted more migrants and refugees per capita than any other city in Sweden. By the end of 2015, the city was receiving up to 2,000 refugees every day. And as of 2022, Malmö was home to people from 179 different nationalities, with 1 in 3 of its nearly 350,000 residents born outside Sweden. Due to the sudden influx of people, many migrants have had to live in poor conditions, like the Rosengård estate, which has become breeding grounds for crime. Today, Malmö has the highest level of crime rates in Sweden, specifically for gun-related incidents. And Malmö in particular has faced challenges integrating migrants, with Sweden's PM citing it as one of
It's really all a sad situation. It does make me sad. Like, people are needing safety, but then again, there's also a lot of people that's coming in because they want to hurt us.
the cases of parallel societies. While economic factors are not the primary driver of negative attitudes towards migration, they still remain a significant concern. And evidence from various countries suggests that welfare states can lose popular support if their programs are perceived to disproportionately benefit immigrants. The Swedish welfare state is a fundamental aspect of life for many of its citizens, having some of the most generous welfare policies anywhere. But it hasn't always been like this, and there are people old enough in the country to remember that this was something that
What the heck was that? Briefcase? That was
always been like this.
It's very big. It reminds me of like a magician and their little briefcase thing. That's big. I would not want to carry that around.
Welfare policies anywhere. But it hasn't always been like this, and there are people old enough in the country to remember that this was something that can't be taken for granted. In fact, in the modern history of the nation, the widespread welfare state is only a relatively modern phenomenon, where large developments weren't seen until after World War II and in the 1970s. The state is very generous, but this needs to be financed through taxes, and Sweden has maintained high tax rates for many years, but its existing model of the welfare state has been
Their buildings are to die for, though. Very beautiful.
Put under challenge in more recent years due to an increase in migration. Currently, Sweden's welfare system functions effectively because everyone contributes to it. While some individuals benefit more from the system than they contribute, this is balanced by others who pay in more than they take out. This is, after all, the point of a welfare model, and this balance maintains its equilibrium. However, this equilibrium begins to shift when the number of people drawing from the welfare state increases without a corresponding rise in contributions. Refugees entering Sweden earn significantly less than other migrant groups, contributing to a higher dependence on the welfare state. In 2022, the average income for individuals born abroad who came to work in Sweden was 301,000 krones, approximately 77% of the average wages earned by the native population. And among immigrants from Africa and Asia, earnings were even lower, at 63% and 68% of the native average respectively. This income disparity is also mirrored in unemployment rates. In 2019, 15.7% of the foreign-born labour force was unemployed, compared to only 3.9% of the native workforce. And such unemployment rates lead to greater reliance on welfare support, affecting both immigrants and the Swedish society as a whole.
That looks pretty cool. Looks like maybe a casino and a hotel together. That's what I would think. Let me know down in the comments if I'm right. I've only been to like one casino that looks like this at all, or resembles it at all.
Because of both of these factors relating to crime and the welfare state, The share of Swedes perceiving immigration as more of an opportunity than a problem fell significantly from 45% of respondents to 31%. In response to public opinion, Sweden has looked to address some of these issues through a number of recent amped-up policy initiatives. Perhaps the most controversial of recent measures has been plans to increase the number of migrants who are returned to their home country. Tighter measures have been placed on asylum claims, and those who see their claims rejected have been told to return to their country of origin as soon as possible. This has been combined with increasing measures to revoke residency permits, and to enforce this, detention centres will continue to be used, as well as mandatory accommodation centres which were enforced via electronic surveillance while waiting for the return decision. It's important to note that Sweden is not completely opposed to immigration. Migration is essential for most Western economies to survive. However, recent measures in Sweden have been essential for most Western economies to survive. However, recent measures in Sweden have been designed to favour higher skilled migrants to enter as opposed to lower skilled. Following the introduction of new labour immigration laws, work permits will only be made available to those labour immigrants in Sweden who earn a salary of at least 80% of the Swedish median. In doing this, Sweden hopes to attract more highly skilled workers, as their compensation should reflect their level of skill in the labour market, and also their ability to contribute to the welfare state.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
These claims are separate from asylum cases. It would also help reduce the amount of lower skilled, lower paid labour coming into the economy. Given this, Sweden is also taking measures to reduce the number of asylum claimants it receives by not having a more generous policy than is required by EU law. Since the spike in 2015, the number of resettled refugees accepted by Sweden decreased from 5,000 in 2022 to just 900 in 2023. It's clear to see that Sweden is taking
I mean, really, what's the initiative to be taking in all these extra people, knowing that you're in the negative? I don't understand.
a number of measures which are not only stricter but more radical than many other European countries. Sweden is still facing labour shortages, but these are in high-skilled vacancies, which are usually unable to be quickly filled from asylum seekers. The famed systems of Denmark and Sweden have made these nations appear to be attractive destinations, whereby many newcomers and prospective citizens have hopefully anticipated strong governmental assistance with their relocation and integration efforts. And so the attractiveness of the Nordic region, both to Eastern Europeans and non-Europeans, relied heavily on the area's reputation as a welfare society. However, as time has gone on, the differences in the approach to migration between these nations has become clearer, especially as Sweden has witnessed some of the downsides of poor integration. Its policies are certainly controversial, but with these opinions on the rise across all of Europe as seen in the latest European elections, will other countries start adopting similar measures soon? Before you go, I've got something really exciting to share with you. I'm launching the Invisible Hand newsletter next month. Every week we'll dive into fascinating stories about economics and geopolitics.
Guys, thank you so much for watching, and if you're new here, don't forget to hit the subscribe because it really does help me and the channel grow. We all YouTubers are appreciative of that. So thanks again, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye, guys.